The Thin Gray Line collection brought to you exclusively by LEOChallengeCoins.com. Collect pins, challenge coins, medallions, emblems, patches, and more at LEOChallengeCoins.com. Visit www.leochallengecoins.com.
A contraband cell phone was used on July 8th, 2019 at Lake Correctional Institution to film correctional officers subduing an inmate in what appears to be on the recreation field. They filmed from their dormitory, it appears, and should not be hard to detect which dorm the filming was done from. Remember, all officers in this YouTube video filmed by inmates are innocent until proven guilty. Hello, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. Now, inmates have filmed officers on the recreation field subduing an inmate. The video is 5 minutes long. At the very end, I put about 2 minutes and 50 seconds of the video. You can look at the entire video on YouTube if you want to, but I gave you the first 2 minutes and 50 seconds to give you an idea of what they're doing. We have to remember a couple of things. All the commentary by the inmates, we have to ignore that. We have to have a fair and impartial investigation conducted by the Inspector General's office. They may even bring FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, in as well to have an outside agency work with the Inspector General's office. That has not been mentioned yet. But here's what has been mentioned by the Secretary of the Florida Department of Corrections. The YouTube video drew quick response of Corrections Secretary Mark Inch, who described it as deeply disturbing. We have zero tolerance for officer abuse or misconduct for any reason, Inch said in a statement emailed to the Times-Union. The action of these individuals will not be tolerated. Inch said the department's Office of the Inspector General has launched an investigation. All officers identified would be placed on no inmate contact status while the investigation is conducted. He said the inmate who was beaten will be relocated to another facility. Now, this is a news release based on what the secretary is alleged to have emailed the Times-Union. So I don't know. Well, it says he said, the secretary said, the inmate who was beaten. But we still have to conduct a fair and impartial investigation to determine if the inmate was beaten or if he was resisting, if he injured officers during the process. We don't know all these things yet. Those found participating in any level of abuse or failing to properly report abuse will be subject to administrative and criminal charges, Secretary Inch said. Now, that is true. I've conducted investigations of this nature, and we've had indictments, and we've left it up to a jury to decide who's guilty and who's not guilty. The video will speak for itself. You make the call, you watch the video, and you decide. But I do know one thing's for sure. Everybody needs to tell the truth, because we've had officers involved in these types of situations before that were not involved in the subduing of the inmate, and they did not tell the truth, and they lost their jobs as well. And then the other officers ended up in criminal court. I don't know from this video what is going to happen. It will be watched over and over and over by the Inspector General's office, investigators. It will be watched over and over and over by our use of force folks in the Florida Department of Corrections. It will be watched over and over and over by the state attorney's office. You can bet that. This is something that's not going to be just handled at the administrative level. They're going to have to show it to the state attorney's office. Let them decide if they want to press charges or not. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, who we call the police of the police here in Florida, will watch this video, I'm sure, over and over and over. And of course, thousands of people across the nation, now that it's on YouTube, will watch it. But remember, folks, we also have another situation here. We have contraband on the compound. So I am hoping that the compound is 100% locked down. I am hoping that there's searches going on right now. Now, the inmates apparently took this video on the 8th of July. I'm talking to you on Sunday, I believe it's the 14th of July now. And that phone has probably been destroyed. Once they sent off the video with the YouTube, the inmates have probably destroyed the phone, gotten rid of it, so that it can't be found. I don't know. Sometimes we're lucky enough and it's not destroyed and we can find it. So I hope they find that phone during the search. If not, find all the contraband you can while you've got this prison locked down, and find everything you can. Voices of the inmates should be able to help identify who they are. They'll have to be questioned as well. Locked down, transferred probably out of the prison. Of course, the inmates are naming staff names as they're videotaping the officers, and you'll see that in the video. They're naming sergeants, they're naming the captain, they're naming officers. As I said again, they're making some strong commentary, like they're killing the guy, and they're doing this and that. Let the video speak for itself. We cannot use the commentary from the inmates. And they also say this has been going on for 5 minutes before we started filming. We don't know that. We can only go by the video we have. So there's a lot of things that we have to disregard. And when the investigators go in, they'll have to figure out what is factual, what is false. The one thing that is factual, though, you have some officers on video. And they'll be watching this video and picking out officers that are using the force, and set that to the side, and they'll be questioning them about this activity. We don't know what happened. What did the inmate do to cause the officers to have to subdue him? Did he have a weapon in his hand? Did he have contraband in his hand? Did he attack the officers? Did he run from the officers? These are all questions we have to answer. You know, if we think that an inmate has contraband or a weapon and he's acting suspiciously, then of course, and he runs from us, we need to get that inmate. And of course, on the opposite side, if he came at the officers, same thing, you have to defend yourself. There's so many questions that must be answered, and we need to know before we can come up with a final conclusion. And it's going to take a long time, folks. This is not a situation that you're going to have answers next week. I had a case of Charlotte Correctional Institution that did not get to court till 1.5 years later, and we investigated for 8 to 10 months. Every time you think you're there and ready to go, another thing pops up, another witness comes in, another piece of evidence is discovered. You just don't know what's going to happen and how long it's going to take. So don't expect to hear from investigators of the Department of Corrections next week. It's done, it's over, we've finalized it, we know what happened. That's just not the way it works. It's going to take a long time. They also said in the release from the Secretary that these officers will have non-inmate contact and be relocated. And when you see the video, there's a lot of officers there. Looks to me like 10 to 15 officers approximately in that area. There's going to be a lot of officers. So guess what that does, folks? That's going to put us in even a deeper hole with the staff shortage situation. I would not be surprised. This secretary is very on the ball and on the situations quickly, from what I can tell, since this secretary took over. I would not be surprised if this secretary is not going to visit the prison or go down to the prison and see what's going on and how the investigation is handled. I would not be surprised if we hear later that the Secretary of the Florida Department of Corrections does not go to Lake Correctional this week sometime. I would not be surprised. Also in the video, you're going to see where some officers look to be injured. Now, I don't know if they're injured. I don't know if spray was used. I see 2 officers in the video wobbling away like they're injured. It is 96 degrees, feels like 105 here in Florida. I don't know if it's heat exhaustion, if it's overexertion in these physical activities. But I do know one thing for sure. This is something that's going to be around with us for a while. And I'm not giving an opinion. I'm just giving some things that we see in the video, my thoughts on the investigation. Let you know that it's going to be quite a long time before you hear any final conclusions, before you hear if anyone loses their job, if anyone is arrested, if anyone goes to court over this incident. We'll see what happens. Just remember, folks, in this type of situation, always tell the truth. Don't lose your job over another officer's actions if something was done wrong. And if you witness something wrong, the Secretary's statement is absolutely correct. Be truthful, and if you saw something that was wrong, you must report it. It's just the way it is. Now, if you want to go down the drain with somebody, then you go down the drain with them. That's your choice. All officers are innocent until proven guilty, and we must have a fair and impartial investigation conducted. This does not mean that anyone is going to be convicted. We don't know until everything is completed and turned in. And let's get those contraband cell phones off the compound, folks. There's going to be people out there on the other side of the coin saying, thank goodness they had a contraband cell phone. Well, that's not the case, folks. Cell phones are used to conduct drug activities, drug smuggling, escapes. We're not allowed to let inmates have contraband of any type. They are only allowed to have what they can live on. Their medical, their dental, their food, their clothing, their bed, their bedding, their, all these type things they're allowed to have. Their health and toothbrush, things like that. Toothpaste, all those things they're allowed to have. Not cell phones, which they use to get other contraband in the prison. So hopefully they find out which inmates and we're viewing. And if they look at the view of the video, they're going to know which dormitory and which window it was filmed out of. Now they just have to find out which inmates were filming. And they must be investigated just like the officers. Okay, just some input. We'll see what happens, and later on down the road we'll do another video when we learn more from the investigators. Thanks for watching Gary York True Prison Stories.
You know, I'm up over there, man. Just gonna kick him in the face. Hold on. Take his hand down. He got him dead. He punching the man. Look at this shit. They cracking jumping up in here. As y'all can see, they're beating him up. For what reason, I don't know. They say he's resisting, but he's not resisting at all. They're gonna kill the goddamn. They're gonna kill him. You got other officers coming down to beat up one man. This been going on 5 minutes before you even start recording. This been going on for 5 minutes before I start recording. Just look. You have Captain Gas. You have more so-called professional DOC officers. Look at the man there punching the man from the. They're near him. They're beating him. Hey man, we need to say something. Let them know we watching, bro. For they ain't gonna kill this motherfucking man, man. Look at this shit. Look at he throwing. Look at this shit, man. Sergeant Wilson. Hey man, we send this to the news, bro. We need to send this to our families and let them know. You feel retaliation shooting this man up.
Good shit, man.
They're steady
All
beating.
them overseas.
You see when they get him, look, he's still punching the
Steady
man,
beating them, man.
God damn.
This is the retaliation we get. Today is July the 8th.
Now he just sat there beating the man to death. Now he get up like he hurt. Look at him still jumping up and down on the man. Man, they gonna kill that goddamn man. Now look at this. They trying to hide Captain Gas. He done got fucked up. He done got sprayed trying to kill the man.